Hello everyone, this is Gene and I'm back with another video. I hope everybody's well. It's a little after 11 p.m. It's a late night for me. I wasn't actually intending to make a video today, but I just saw a video clip from a few years ago, from about 7 years ago, that I just wanted to share. I wanted to share a positive, if sappy. I'm becoming a sap in my old age, but or should I say my middle age? But I wanted to share a positive message, right? Especially with everything going on in the world and the violence and the division. This clip that I saw, which I'll describe in a minute, really touched me. It touched me in a very warm, positive way. And for what it's worth, I wanted to, share that with you all, right? And it just reminded me of how, as cheesy as the phrase may be, as the motorcycle passes outside, because this is New York City and no one knows when to sleep, including me. But anyway, um, love truly is, in my opinion, when expressed properly and when experienced in a positive light, love truly is the perfect bond of union, right? So let me describe this clip that I'm talking about. So it's a news clip from about 7 years ago, right? So it's a bit old. And it shows a 14-year-old girl. She's getting her black belt in what looks like Taekwondo, right? I can't say for certain. The clip doesn't specify which martial art it is, but given her uniform and that her teacher, her master, who is shown in the clip later, he looks to be an older Korean man. I could be wrong, but he looks to be an older Korean guy. So I'm going to assume that she was getting her black belt at the time in Taekwondo. So she's 14, which means that she would be 21 today, 2021, depending on her birthday. But the reason I bring this up is because, right, the heartwarming element of this video clip is that her father, who had been fighting in Afghanistan out to war, was secretly watching her from a different room. So he was watching her go through the belt test and all this stuff. And so as she's walking, and being bowed at and being honored by her fellow students as she gets her black belt, her father finally reveals himself, right? And like children or just people in general often do in these sort of news clips, right? They see their loved one who's been out to war and everything, and they run to them and they hug them, and it's a very sweet scene. But the reason I'm sharing it is because the young girl, there's actually two girls in there, although the focus of the story is on the 14-year-old. But the girl is African American, or at least she looks it, right? I can't, I, again, it doesn't delve too deep into her personal history, but she looks like she's African American, or at least one part of her heritage is, and it's very strong in her features. But so she's African American, right? Let's just put it that way, right? And her father, the soldier who has come home, is a white man, blonde-haired white guy. Now, again, the clip doesn't give us much. It doesn't explain whether he's her father biologically or whether he's her father through maybe being a step parent or whatever. But it's irrelevant, right? And that's the thing about it. That's the beauty of it. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter how he became their father to these two girls, right? It doesn't matter whether it's through the good old fashioned way, right? It doesn't matter if they're biologically his kids or they're his stepkids or he adopted them, right? Or whatever it is. They're his daughters. And he even says that. He even says in the clip, like he says in the video clip, that there's nothing better than to hold his two little girls in his arms. And it just really, especially in this time of division, especially racial division that we're seeing. And as I mentioned in my previous video, we're going to be soon commemorating a tragedy, not just for New Yorkers, I would say especially for New Yorkers, but not just for us, right? It's truly the tragedy of the world, right? But we're going to be commemorating a tragedy, loss of life, and death and loss of innocence, loss of security, and all these other things, right? That was caused by hatred, right? Whatever type of hatred you want to identify it as, American values, Western values, the US as a country, foreign affairs, whatever you want to term it as. The fact of the matter is that on September 11th, thousands of people lost their lives in New York City and beyond because of acts of hate. People since then, be it in terrorist attacks in, for example, the Boston Marathon bombing or bombings in other countries, like there was one in France, I think, a few years ago, or one in there was the one in England, I think, the 7/7 bombing or whatever, or whatever it was. I don't quite remember all the details, right? But there have been acts of crime and acts of terror and all the other stuff, um, for years, forever. Since there has been humans, there has been sadly hatred and divisions and acts of violence meant to terrorize the common person, right? And it's really just ultimately acts of hate. When you have to lash out against innocent people, right? When your goal is not, military targets or anything like that, when your goal is to terrorize the common man and woman, it's an act of hate, in my personal opinion, right? For whatever it is worth, right? So I guess with that looming in mind, right, and we see even today, right, with our own, at least in America, no doubt in other countries, right, there's Hong Kong and the protests and all the trouble there, but especially here in the U.S., right, perhaps I'm being a little too America centric in this, but I live here. What do you want me to do, right? But given the um, unrest and the division and the hatred that has been displayed by so many people, famous and not famous, hatred displayed on sadly both sides of the issue, right? There's, as the Star Wars episode said, I'm watching a lot of Star Wars recently, but as the Star Wars episode says, there's heroes on both sides. There's sadly also villains on both sides. And there are hatreds and divisions on both sides, and it just feeds into this, terrible feedback loop of hate and anger and violence, and it's just all destructive in the end. So, in light of that, I just wanted to share this clip and my thoughts on it, and how love truly is this perfect bond of union. Because the thing about love, and I'm not just talking about romantic love, although that's certainly included, right? But love, whether it be of man, even love of oneself, right? You have to love yourself before you can love another person. But whether it be love of oneself, love of man, romantic love, love of family, friends, agape love, spiritual love, if you are such a minded person, I know not everybody is, but whatever type of love it is, right? Love, when it's expressed and felt in a healthy, positive sense, truly is a perfect bond of union, because it does what anger and hatred cannot do. It overcomes, right? It overcomes all the things that should serve as dividing walls between us, whether it's sex, by that I mean gender, but whether it's sex and gender, or sex or gender, however this works these days, whether it's racial identity, national identity, uh, whether it's with any sort of group identity that can come into contact, or rather conflict, I should say, with another group identity, right? Whatever divisions can exist between peoples, or even divisions within oneself, right? They can be overcome with love. That is one of the most amazing, beautiful powers that love has. It can overcome these deeply rooted divisions and issues, and it can, serve as a healing. It can serve as a restoration, right? I said that about the concept of redemption. Love is what allows for things like for forgiveness and redemption, right? You cannot be redeemed and you cannot be forgiven or forgive someone else unless you have love. You can't do these things. That's why, for example, the whole Twitterati SJW thing, right? They're so harshly critical. They're unable to forgive because they cannot feel love or they don't allow themselves to, right? It may be considered one of the softer or more sentimental emotions, but it's actually that softness and sentimentality that makes it so strong and allows for it to overcome these things that um, anger and fear and all this stuff can't. Not to say that anger and fear or even hate in and of itself are necessarily bad things. There are things you should hate. You should hate bad things, right? You should be angry about bad things. These emotions are not necessarily bad in and of themselves, but they are the more destructive ones, right? They're the ones used to tear down stuff, right? They tear down things. They're the destructive emotions. It's like the concept of alchemy, right? In Full Metal Alchemist, right? You have destruction, it leads to creation. You have creation, it leads to destruction. It's a circle. It's the circle of life. And this is pretty much the same thing, right? So again, to sort of counteract and counterbalance all of the destruction that we're seeing in the world, both literally, right, with buildings or loss of life, or just the downfall of society as we know it, at least in the first world. I wanted to share this clip for whatever it's worth of love, right? Of love and how it has bonded at least four people in this clip, right? Because you have the love of the two girls, right? So they're bonded as sisters, hopefully. Hopefully they have a good, healthy relationship. Then you have, of course, the bond that they have with their father, right? And again, race is irrelevant here. They don't care that dad is white and they're not, or they're only half white or whatever it is. Dad is dad. Dad is home, right? And they're just happy to see him again, right? So a bond of love has bonded these children with their father. A bond of love, hopefully, has bonded this man, at least at the time of this clip, uh, with their mother, right? And a bond of love has bonded the 14-year-old girl in the clip getting her black belt to her teacher, right? Now, of course, that relationship is going to be different, right? It's a student-mentor relationship, and I guess you could say it was brought together by a love of martial arts, right? A love of, what I'm assuming is Taekwondo, but still, a love of something brought them together. It's similar to the video I did a few weeks ago when I talked about when I met Mr. Fuji, right? The WWE personality, right? It's like, what brings, three college girls, none of who are Asian, right? None of who have ever been in the pro wrestling business, right? What brings us and Mr. Fuji, right, together in one room to talk? The love of pro wrestling. For however silly it is, it was that common bond, that common fandom that we all shared that created a really cool moment in my life that I'll always think of fondly. But as I was saying, right, love truly is this greater bond, or rather creates a greater bond of union. So I think I'm gonna stop rambling here and end the video. It's almost at 15 minutes. And I didn't intend for it to go this long. So I just want to close out with, as always, I hope you guys are well, or if you're not, that you're getting well, that your families are well or getting well. And I wanted to just share a song lyric because I always think in terms of music. So I just wanted to share a song lyric from one of my favorite U2 songs, which is One, right? There's a part where Bono sings, love is a temple, right? The the love is a temple, love the higher law. There you go. I actually have to start singing it to actually get the line right. Right. So I just wanted to end on that. Right. Love is the higher law. However, love however you express that or experience that, because that's going to be different for every person. But just try to keep it in mind for whatever it's worth. So your favorite grumpy sap from New York City is going to be a responsible adult and get the rest that she needs to deal with the day. So see you all around. Have a good day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next video at some point. Bye.